Greetings, BUSN 1360 Software Applications for Business. Welcome. I'm Dr. McGrory. I'm your instructor, and today we're tackling Word Chapter 2 Grader. And again, this is the hands-on exercise. We've got a lot to do. Let's get started. Let me get out of that. And in the overview video before we started the graders, I explained how to download the files, and I emphasized the need to organize them into different folders. So here's my new folder for Word Chapter 2, and I'm going to double click to open that folder, and you should have 3 files that you downloaded from MyLab IT, or My IT Lab, however you want to say it. I see that I have 2 Word files, and if I want to see them a little bit better, and I see I have 1 picture file. So probably I'm going to insert this picture into the work that I'm doing. If you've completed the simulation activity in preparation for this, that photo probably looks a little familiar because you've been practicing to do those steps. Now you see that I have the instruction file here. You see the word instruction. I'm going to go ahead and double click that to open it. And as I look at these instructions, let me just scroll down here. Oh goodness, page 2 and on to page 3. So we have 28 steps that we need to complete today. This is a good time to emphasize 2 things. First of all, if you are completing these steps and you don't need assistance, then you can skip to the part of the video that is directly applicable to the steps. In YouTube, if you'll look in the comments section below, you might have to show more so that you can see the full paragraph. I try to include links to each one of the steps to help you quickly navigate. Now, along the way, I do try to give you additional tips and tricks that make you even more efficient, more accurate as you're doing your work. So maybe you just kind of play the video in background as you're working, or spot check it. But I leave that to you if you're comfortable doing this without assistance. But don't lose points simply because you're not taking time to look at the video. Okay? You want to maximize your learning, you want to maximize your points. So here's the second point. This is going to be a long video today. You may have to stop and take breaks. I will stop and take breaks because my computer, quite frankly, cannot handle the demands on it of doing a video and all the editing. So I have to kind of chop it up. Hopefully I can still deliver it to you as one video and let you kind of skip through it so that you only have to go to one place. But we'll probably take breaks, and we're going to save our work along the way. 28 steps, got a lot to do. Nothing you can't handle, folks. Nothing you can't handle. Let's see what we're doing. Our project description today is in regards to a studio. So what are we doing for the studio? Well, it says having recently opened your own photography studio. Excellent. That may apply to some of you, or your own small business, for example. You're engaged in the marketing business. You have prepared a rough draft of a newsletter describing photography basics, a document that must be formatted and properly organized before it's distributed to people on your mailing list. You want it to look good, right? You will modify the document to ensure attractive line and paragraph spacing, and you will format text to draw attention to pertinent points. You'll also make appropriate use of colors, borders, pictures, and graphics. Great. This sounds like something that you could apply to any type of community organization that you're a part of, fraternities, sororities, your business that you may be operating, maybe even to your job, your church organization. This has a lot of function that you can implement in your life probably right now. Let's look at task number 1. Start Word, download and open the file. That's going to begin with our name, right? And then it's going to say Word Chapter 2, HOE for hands-on exercise in the studio. Grader has automatically added your name to the beginning of the file. Ensure that non-printing characters are displayed. So let me minimize. There's the folder right there. When I double click, this is going to launch Word on my computer. What's the first thing I always need to do? Enable editing. Now, I see the document, looks like, how many pages is it? If I look down in the lower left corner, I see this is a 3-page document. Oh, that's great. A lot of, text and stuff here. That's fine. Okay, just kind of surveying the document, but it did say that I should enable those non-printing characters. I need to see while I edit. So remember, on our Home tab, it's this backwards P, which is an editor's mark. I'm going to click that. Now I can see those paragraphs and all that. All right, that's step number 1. How do we do it? One step at a time. So on to step 2. Select all text in the document. Change the font to 12-point Times New Roman. Italicize the second line. It's kind of an interesting way to say it. Second line, courtesy of Philips Studio, all that. Italicize the word boxy in the paragraph below camera body. Okay, so we're just doing some basic things. Let's minimize this, and you probably remember this from the simulation. All right, I said this is a 3-page document. If I had to drag to select all this, it would be a lot. So I'm going to give you a tip. To select all text in a document, Control, keep the Control key held down, and you just have to tap the letter A. It's selected everything. I can scroll down just to verify. See how it's all selected? That's fantastic. Very fast. If I had a 50-page document, a 100-page document, Control A is going to select all. Everything in that document. All. Control A. Now it said I needed to change the font, so I'm going to come up here, as I usually would, to this font box. Now I could click on this drop-down box and scroll until I find Times New Roman. Luckily, I see that it's a recently used font for me, which kind of makes it easy. But otherwise, I would have to scroll down. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to click inside this box. Let me click away so you can see. See when I click inside, can you see that insertion point flashing? Remember, we learned about insertion point in the last chapter. So if I have an insertion point, I can start typing. So I'm just going to type Times, and you see how the computer's filling that out for me? Well, I don't have to keep typing. Press the Tab key. I could also have pressed Enter. Now, did you notice the font change? It's a different look to it now. It's got the edges on the fonts, which were not there before. It also said to pick 12-point font. If I want, I can type the number 12 in there, or I can pick it out of the list. Now, here's a really cool thing. Do you know why you want to recognize that you can type in this box? Because you might think that your only choices for these fonts, for example, are, I'm going to have to jump from, I don't know, 16, or let's say 18 to 20. And gosh, if I could just put 19, it would be perfect. Why not? I can type that in there. And it would make it just a little bit smaller. You know, it looks like the smallest font I have is 8, right? I'm going to pick 8. You see 8? Well, what if I put 6? Do you see it go even smaller? So if you were not aware that you could type in that box, you would not be aware that you could actually go to sizes that are not listed in that drop-down. But we want to get these points correct. And so I'm going to click this drop-down, and I'm going to make sure I set that to 12. So Times New Roman, 12-point font. Let's see, what was the other part of the instruction? I need to italicize, it says the second line, which is this courtesy of Philips Studio. So what was the fast way that we learned? Triple click, right? Selects the whole paragraph. The paragraph is a line, triple click, right? So I've got it. And so I need to italicize it. There it is, right? And italicize the word boxy in the paragraph after. It says camera body. Let me make this bigger so you can follow along with me. Here's camera body right there. That's another way to select a line, by the way. Do you see when I move my mouse out to the side, if I just want to select one line, my mouse turns, normally the mouse is this way, it turned to be the other way. But they want me to select, okay, I'm sorry. They want me to find the word boxy after camera body. So there it is. How do I select a word very quickly? Double click. Triple click is a paragraph, double click is the word, and italics. Again, if you are a beginner and you want to drag to select, that's fine. That's fine. If you are more advanced and you want to become more efficient, I'm giving you some of those tips and tricks. If you're a beginner and you're saying, I want to just go ahead and learn kind of one way with keyboard strokes, that why not? Okay, so I'm giving you some choices. You get to pick, all to support you, and I hope you find it helpful. All right, so we italicized, let me go back to my instructions. This was step 2. We italicized the word boxy below in the paragraph below camera body. That looks like the end of step 2. We've done good stuff here. Let's save our work. Okay, back to the instructions. Step 3. Select the 5 paragraphs on page 1, beginning with compose with care and ending with be bold. Click or press the dialog box launcher. That's a new thing. Launcher is a new thing for us. In the font group on the home tab and apply bold formatting. And then with that text still selected, apply small caps. Small caps. So that might be a little bit new. Let's say the launcher is new for us. Maybe just that word is new for us. So here I am in my document. And for task number 3, step 3, it said to select compose with care through be bold. So I just, drug my mouse over the top of that. And it said with that selected to launch the dialog box launcher in the font group. Okay, see these groups? This is the undo group, clipboard group, font group. So each one of these is a group. And at the end of each group, there is a launcher. You may remember from the previous chapter that we went into the launcher for styles. It was really kind of the only way that we could find heading 1, right? Well, now we want more than just the settings that are shown in this font group. So clicking the launcher opens a dialog box with many additional settings. It asked me to bold, so I'm going to click bold. Right? Now we could have just clicked bold up here, right? But it wants us to apply small caps. I could only find that from this dialog box launcher. And then look at here, small caps. And you might, like some of these other settings, strike through to indicate that you mean this was a change. Double strike through because I'm afraid you're not going to see the single strike through. I want it to be more dominant than that. And as I picked small caps, do you see that it's demonstrating what that looks like? So if I wasn't sure what a single strike through looked like, or a double strike through looked like, right? So how did we get here? We got here through that launcher. You might notice also there's even more options. There's a text effects button down here. There's an advanced option over here. So there's a lot you can do in Word through these dialog boxes. I encourage you to explore. I'm going to click OK. That was step 3. And I believe I did all the steps. Again, as your instructor, I make mistakes because sometimes as I talk to you, as I add in additional facts and I demonstrate things, I skip a step of the instruction. If I do that, when I submit it into myitlab.com for grading, immediate grading, I will be able to review my errors and I'll show you that. We'll fix those errors. We'll resubmit the document and get an improved score. When I make an error, I do try to make a note of that on the video so that you can get it right the first time, okay? So, all right, here we go. We're doing this together, right? We're doing this together. Okay, so we finished that. We've done some good stuff. Let's save. Let's go back to those instructions and let's knock out another one. Here's step number 4. Scroll to the end of the document. Select the last paragraph in the document. When they tell us what that last paragraph is, let Philips Studio L Photography preserve your memories. Click or press text effects and typography in the font group, and then it tells us a very specific fill. And then it tells us a very specific outline. And then it tells us what hard shadow we should have. And it's saying that all these settings are going to be in row 3, column 3, and change the font size of the selected text to 16. Whew, that's a lot. Let's minimize and let's get to it. First thing it said is that we need to move to the end of the document. Here's another tip for you. You could scroll, 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 but if you are writing your 100-page term paper, your thesis, that's a lot of scrolling. So do you see those buttons on your keyboard? One of them says home, one of them says end, one says like insert, delete, that kind of thing. Home and end, E-N-D, are the two that I want you to look at. If I hold my control key down and I press home, control, keep it held down, tap home, it goes all the way to the top. So control is like pumping it up on steroids, okay? It's not just home, it's all the way home. If I press control and I press end, E-N-D, end, then it's on steroids. It's not just to the end of the line or the end of the word, but boom, to the end of the document. Control, end, right? Isn't this kind of cool? So we're all the way to the end. Look at my insertion point. There it is, flashing at the very, very end. And there's that sentence, let Philips Studio L Photography preserve your memories. And it said, what am I supposed to do here? Select it. So you know I'm going to triple click, right? There it is. And it says press text effects. So I am looking on the home tab and I'm looking in this font area because that's where I change my lettering, my text, and I see how to color the letters and highlight the letters, and this is my text effects and typography button. So if I click that little arrow next to it, I'm going to get all these choices. And they kind of told me if I go across 1, 2, 3 and down 1, 2, 3, this looks like it fits the bill. It's a blue fill, it's a white outline, the hard shadow is blue, and so I'm just double checking, but that looks right to me. Select. And again, if you've done the simulation first, hopefully this looks familiar to you. Now I'm not done yet. It says change the font size of the selected text to 16. There we go. Done some good things here. I'm going to save. Let's return to the instructions. That was step 4. Let's go on to step 5. Select the second paragraph. I'll take issue with that in a moment. Courtesy of Philips Studio L Photography, and change the font color to blue accent 5 darker 25, which they tell us, if you are colorblind, they tell us that's row 5 column 9. Select the words you should consider how to become a better photographer in the paragraph under the composition heading. Change the text highlight color to yellow. Okay, so let's go back to the document. Now, I need to go back up to the top, I believe. Yeah, because it said the second paragraph. So how can I, quick as a rabbit, go all the way back to the top? Control, home. Boom, back up to the top, right? Now, remember that in Word, a paragraph is any time somebody has pressed the Enter key. So I take issue with them just a little bit because my instructions say select the second paragraph. What they mean is the second paragraph with content, but minus 1 point for them. Okay, we're going to select this paragraph. I'm going to triple click it. And step number 5 says to change the font color. So I'm going to go up here to my font group. I'm going to go to the color button. And I need, let's see, blue accent 5. So I kind of see I have 2 blue columns, right? But when I hover in this first column, you see how it says blue accent 1? So I know that I'm all the way over here, which they say is column 9, and so that's right. But I need to go down to row 5. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that tells me blue accent 5, darker 25, and that's correct. Okay, Now it says select the words "you should consider how to become a better photographer" in the paragraph under the composition heading. So let's go down to, I'm looking, there's composition. There it is right there. Okay, so with that, I have found composition, and it says select "you should consider how to become." Okay, here's where it begins. You should consider how to become a better photographer. Now, I'm going to tell you another little trick for selecting. We've talked about how double-clicking selects a word, triple-clicking selects a paragraph. I'm going to tell you how to do a very precise selection, and it can be over a really big group of text, multiple paragraphs, or it can be over just a sentence. When I was looking at this, they're telling me to start my selection before the word "you." So I'm clicking there. See my insertion point. Do you remember in the overview video before we started graders, I told you that whenever you use the shift key, so earlier we were talking about control, now we're talking about shift, that it would select everything from the starting point where I've already clicked to, now that I have the shift key held down, to the ending point. So I'm going to click right here to the end of photographer. You should consider how to become a better photographer. Did you see how I did that? So I clicked at the beginning, I held my shift key down, and I could click way down here if I want. And it selected everything from where I clicked. Now when I do my first click, I do not have any keys held down. Then I shift, and then I click my ending point. Okay, so that's just a really, really precise way. That being said, there is nothing at all wrong with dragging to select. Just throwing in some extra things for you. Now, this was what step was I on here? Still on step 5, and it says change the text highlight color to yellow. If you're not familiar, Word has this great highlighter built in. You have all kinds of different colors that you can highlight with, but they asked us just to stick with basic yellow, so I'm going to click on that. All right. I've done some good things here. That looks like the end of step 5. Let's save it. Rock and roll. On to step 6. Check for spelling and grammar errors. Correct all suggested spelling and grammatical errors, but ignore any refinement flags. Okay. Let's go back. Let's see what they mean here. So we're here. Now, remember that things tend to start and be inserted or begin at the point of insertion. So when we begin checking something, I just simply like to start at the beginning of the document. Otherwise, Word will loop around. So how do I get to the top of the document really fast? Control Home. Now I'm at the very top, and I need to check for spelling and grammar. And I typically do this when I'm done with my edits and I'm ready for review. So let's go to review, and it's the very first option there. So there's editor. It's already checking. It sees that we have some spelling errors. So let's click spelling. Oh, that looks like a problem. It says the board is broken into 9 equal squares. The 4 points where those lines intersect are the strongest. From math class, you know, focal points. What is this? Looks like that should be when you shoot a picture. I know it's going to find that. When you shoot a picture, oh, let me click again. From above, right from above. All right, looks like all my spelling errors are resolved. Now, I do want to go back to the top, but let's just continue on. Let's see how Word handles it. So I have 3 grammar mistakes. Let me click that. Okay, I've already, looks like wrapped around. It says the lens is either built into, should be into, right? The lens is already built into. Lens prices can vary, comma, but. And it says don't put that comma in there, just like that. As though you were the golfer, and it's saying there should be a comma there. Now, if you have used some of the grammar corrections in Word, it is great at identifying problems. Sometimes the problems it identifies are not really grammatically wrong, but they are worded roughly where it's difficult to read. So always double check these before you make these corrections when it's actually your work. Okay? I'm going to click that to accept that comma. There we go. That was step 6. And so let's save. And let's go back to the instructions. On to step 7. Select most of the document beginning with the sentence, "If you enjoy taking digital pictures," and ending with emotion expressed before even greeting Santa. We're going to change line spacing from single spacing to 1.5 spacing. I'm assuming from single spacing. And we're going to apply justify alignment to the selected text. And we're going to adjust the paragraph spacing after. Lots of things going on here. Let's go to the text. Okay. Let me turn this off for just a moment so that you can see a little better. Okay, can you see this? If you looked at this text, it pretty much looks a little bit more than single spaced, but I'm going to say it's probably single spaced. When you want something like 1.5 space, you want more space between these lines, right? Would you agree with me on that? Okay, now we're going to adjust that, but the other thing that they're telling us is to make this justified. Well, when we talk about justified, this is the type of thing that you see in newspapers or magazines where there is no ragged edge. Oftentimes we type ragged right. See how this edge is ragged? It's not flush, it's not straight. When we make something justified, the spacing between the words sometimes looks a little funny, but this left-hand edge will be all nice and justified, and the right edge will be also. So we won't have any ragged edges. That's justified. And then finally, what they're asking us to do is to add space after the paragraph. Do you see how close these paragraphs are? I mean, I almost can't even see this title in here because the paragraphs are so jammed together. Now, the mistake that people make when they have documents that they're editing is they start to do that, right? They start to put line spaces in between, and that can cause kind of maintenance problems as you keep editing and modifying documents. Those extra carriage returns, they get too big. Something's going to be in there that's a 16-point font and it should be 10-point. So it just starts to create editing problems. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to undo. What's undo? Control Z, right? So they told me we're going to do all those changes, but I wanted you to understand what to look for. And so as we go into this, it said start with "if you enjoy taking pictures." And it said it's almost all of the document. Okay, so I'm starting here. Here's my first point. And I'm just going to look to find ending with emotion expressed before even greeting Santa. Do you see that? It said it's almost the entire document. I guess I need to just keep on going down here. Make sure your child's expression, is that what it's talking about? Even greeting. I see Santa. Okay, I'm having trouble finding that, so I'm going to just look for Santa. That's pretty unique. Okay, that is almost the end of the document, isn't it? All the way down here. Okay, remember what I told you, that you can select text by simply clicking. I'm going to use my Shift key. There's my starting point. I'm going to scroll back up because I know that I select from there all the way to "if you enjoy taking digital pictures." Hold my Shift key down, click. So I could do from bottom to top. The cool thing is I can keep going in this direction if I want, or if I mess up, just keep the Shift key held down. Okay. Now, one thing I'm not sure is, do you think that I should have selected the period at the end of the sentence there? I'm not sure. Since we're adjusting paragraph settings, I think that I will not need to include that. So we'll see. So we've selected the text. We're going to change the line spacing. So in my paragraph, this applies to all the lines in the paragraph. In my paragraph spacing, I'm going to change from single to 1.5. Look how much extra space there is between those lines. I'm going to apply justified. This is also a paragraph setting. So it does not apply to just a word or a part of a paragraph. It's to the whole paragraph. See how that ragged right went away? And this is flush on both sides. And we can see there's only one space, even though some of the distances between some of these words look larger than just one space. But we can see that little dot means there's one space. That means somebody pressed the space bar one time. Okay, and then the last thing we needed to do is after they hit the enter key, we want some extra space every time after the paragraph ends. So for this, I need to go to the paragraph launcher, and under indents and spacing, notice there's multiple tabs, so many options. Spacing, and I'm just going to, I could type in here if I wanted, but I just changed that to 6 points. Okay, and OK. And do you see now how after every time this has been, the enter key has been pressed, there's extra space now? Okay, excellent. I'm going to click away so you can kind of see that, and I'm going to save because we've done a lot of work there. Let's go back. Lots of learning. And on to step 8. Insert a registered symbol after the second line of the document. So again, we're talking about up at the top where it says courtesy of Philips Studio. And it says the symbol should follow the text on the same line. So right align the second line of the document. So instead of being flush left, it's going to be right aligned, so flush right. Center the last line of the document, preserve your memories. All right, so this is step number 8. I'm going to minimize this. And I want to go all the way to the top. Control Home. I know you said that. Control Home. Now, I'll tell you a little interesting thing. I mentioned as we were doing the last grader that this textbook is very new, and I'm actually creating these videos before everything is finalized with the book because I want to be ready for you as we start this new academic year. And as I was doing the simulation, they have a little work to do, and I've reported it, and I'm working closely with the publisher, and we are correcting any mistakes. But in your simulation, they suggested to you to go to Insert, there we go, to come to Symbols, to go to More Symbols, and then to change to Special Characters. And this is awesome because you have lots of symbols that you can insert, kind of that longer dash. And we can talk about those. Copyright symbol. Here's the registered symbol. There's a trademark symbol. If you're in the paralegal program, I bet you use this section symbol right here, right? And so we can select this registered trademark and click Insert. I didn't see anything, but it did it. I'm going to move this out of the way. When I clicked Insert, it did it back there. So if you keep clicking Insert, you're going to kind of get a lot going, what's going on? What's going on, right? So click the Insert button and then click Close. What do I need to do? I need to Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. And so I have that one. But in the simulation, just in case this is still a problem, and a good thing to know, it wouldn't let me do that. It kept telling me an incorrect action. And you know how I was able to overcome that. And this is a great shortcut. That registered trademark, I can create it by simply opening the parenthesis, typing the letter R. I can even do it as lowercase or uppercase, close parenthesis. And remember how in the greater one, we had words that were not capitalized, but at the beginning of a sentence? And as soon as we hit the space bar, that's when Word said, wait a minute, I recognize that. It should be capitalized. Well, when in the olden days on typewriters, the way that we used to do a registered trademark was open parenthesis R close parenthesis. Same thing with copyright. We could do open parenthesis and a C and then close parenthesis. And Word is so smart, it recognizes what you're trying to do. Okay? Here's a little tip. If you don't want that copyright symbol, then you just want to go back before Word made that decision. So you need to undo. Oops. Oh, it used to let me do that. Oh, the new version doesn't let me do that. Never mind. It used to let me. Sometimes you can to say don't consider that and undo it, and it will undo it. Not in this case. Okay. Anyway, I wanted to tell you that. So that's the exact same symbol, and it may be easier to remember than going under Insert, Symbols. But it's good to know because look at all the symbols that you have. Okay, even keyboard shortcuts for those symbols. Okay, we have our registered trademark. You have some additional knowledge now, so you are bigger, better, and stronger, faster, hopefully. And let's save this. And let's see, we haven't finished yet. So we inserted a registered symbol after the second line of the document, but it told us also that we need to right align this. So I'm going to go to the Home tab, and currently it's left aligned. The edge is up here to the left side. And just like these little lines are showing, see how those lines are centered? And these lines, see how they're flush on that right edge? So the entire paragraph moved to the right. These are justified, right? This is just left aligned. That's right aligned. Okay? Let's see, so far so good. Center the very last line of the document. So how am I going to get to the very end? Control End very quickly moves me to the very bottom, and it said I should center this. So it's currently left aligned. These lines look like they're stacked in the center. I'm going to click that, and that is now centered. Okay, and I think that's the end of step 8. We've done good things. We're moving right through this. So let's go back to the instructions, go just a little bit further, and then see if we can't get to the bottom of this page and take a break. So page 9, step 9, select the 4 paragraphs of text on page 4, beginning with blurry images due to focus and ending with feature that corrects for a bit of shake. Increase the left indent of the selected text to a 1/2 inch. Okay, so I'm starting with blurry images on page 4. So let's go back to the document. If I look down here at the bottom, I see that I am on page 5. My insertion point is on page 5. I'm going to scroll up. Blurry images. That says due to shake, camera shake. We wanted blurry images due to focus. So I'm going to click right before there. See how it does tell me now that my insertion point is on page 4. And I need to select through with feature that corrects for a bit of shake. I'm looking and I see that down here. I've clicked at the top. I'm going to hold my shift key down and click after that. Click, shift and hold, click. Okay, got that selected. With that selected, it says I need to increase the left indent. Now, that means I need to scoot all of this over a 1/2 inch. I could be very precise and I could drag these little symbols up here, but I'm going to go to Paragraph Launcher because this affects the paragraph. And when I look under indentation, left indentation, I'm going to make that a 1/2 inch and click OK. So let's go back to the instructions. And we did just finish step number 9, so let's go on to step number 10. We're almost at the end of the first page. Place the insertion point at the end of the document. Press Enter twice. Click or press Clear All Formatting in the font group on the Home tab. Set a left tab at 1 inch and set a right tab at 5.5 inches. Modify the 5.5 inch tab to include a dot leader. Okay, so we're going to clear all formatting. Okay, let's go back to the document. And it said, I'm sorry, to place the insertion point at the end of the document. Now, first of all, let me zoom back in. So I just have one page. And how do I get to the end very quickly? Control, End, E-N-D, end. See my insertion point flashing there. Okay, so with my insertion point there at the very, very end, it said to press Enter twice. 1, 2. It said click or press Clear All Formatting in the font group on the Home tab. Okay, I'm on the Home tab. Here I am in the font group. And as I look at, all the cool things I can do to letters, when I look up here, this one has a little eraser. And it says remove all formatting from the selection, leaving only the normal unformatted text. So I'm going to click that. I feel like we should have... okay. Okay, so they just wanted it cleared on that one. All right, so good. I'm sorry, that was a little confused by that. So let's continue. We cleared all formatting. So now we're going to set a left tab at the 1 inch mark and a right tab at the 5.5 inch mark. Okay, I see my ruler across the top. If you do not see your ruler, then you want to go to View and you want to click in this little box right here so that your ruler will display. See how that just is a toggle to see that ruler? Make sure your ruler is displayed. Now, stick with me. If we look in this far left corner, do you see this little thing that looks like an L? Well, guess what? This is describing a tab. So if I press my tab key right now, it will fly over to wherever there's a vertical mark. I'm going to show you this in a minute. And the text will then go in the direction where the flat part of that line is. So it's not an L. The vertical line is saying fly to this point and then make the text go in that direction. So right now it says fly and keep it left, right? L kind of for left. Let me show you. It says the first tab is going to be at the 1 inch mark. Do you see the 1 inch mark? This is the current tab style. And if I click right here, can you see that? We might have to zoom in so that you can see that. A kind of a cool thing is if you ever say, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Yes, you can Control Z. You can drag it off of there also. So you can add tabs on the ruler or you can delete tabs from the ruler. So click. Right? Now, I hope that's right at the 1 mark. It can be a little hard to see. And they want a right tab at the 5.5. Well, this is going to push over and the text will stay lined up at the left. I want it now to go where the text lines up to the right. So if I click that, do you see now how it looks like an upside down T? Well, that means that the tab flies over to wherever the vertical mark would be. I'm just going to click to show you. And let me show you. There's my first tab. I pressed the tab key and it stopped here. And if I typed, you see how the text, it flew to the vertical line and then went? If I tabbed again, now watch when I type. It is centered. Let me scroll up so close, put these things together. Do you see how the text is centered around that? So the vertical line is where the tab stop is, and then the line that goes horizontal is where the text goes. Now I'm going to change it one more time. Now do you see how this says the tab stops and the text goes to the right. So if in this right configuration, if I were to click, then if I tab again, I'm actually typing a tab. So there's two parts to this. I have to set the tab stop and I have to insert a tab character. Now when I type, do you see how the text is going to the opposite direction? It's going to the left because it's right aligned. And so we call that a right tab stop. Now, I've got a lot of undoing to do. Let me undo. Let's just get back. Okay, so let's go back. I'm going to click again. This one has to do with decimals, so that it keeps going to the left until it hits a decimal. That's another story. Okay, that's, again, we have different things that we can do here. I'm just clicking. So this, I'm back to kind of the L. And when I get to the L, it said I wanted to place one of those at 1 inch. I want to change this to the right align at 5.5, right? But it said I also need a dot leader, and I can't do that with this little shortcut method. So what I need to do is I need to go to the Home tab, and this is something that affects the paragraph. So I'm going to go into the paragraph launcher. From the paragraph launcher, and I forget this all the time, there's a tabs button. So click that tabs button. Now can you see that it already has this 1 inch? And that's good. I want to make sure it's at 1 inch. It also already has the 5.5 inch. Select that 5.5 inch. And down here it says we need a leader. And it wants a dot leader. And it told us to set it. So I selected this. I modified it so that it had this leader, and I set it with that modification. Click OK. Now, we're going to get to see how this works in a moment, but just so that I can show you, here's how this is commonly used. Somebody might say tab, go to camera lenses, okay, and then tab, that's a dot leader. It's on page 3. Now let me turn off the show hide characters. That's what it ends up looking like. But what you did is you set the tab up correctly, and you're typing a tab and it flies to this location. The text stays at the left and continues there. Then I just hit tab. I hate when I see tab, 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 right? It's going to cause you problems. This was just one tab, very efficient. Put a dot leader in there, stops exactly on the mark. Right? Okay, let me undo everything except for the actual tabs that I put in there, right? Okay, I need to switch over my video for a moment. Normally I won't tell you, but this might be a good time to stop and take a little break. Make sure that you save your work, and then we'll continue with page 2 of our. Did you enjoy the break? Did you stretch? Are you ready to continue on? Or maybe you didn't even break, you're just ready to continue on. Let's do it with step number 11. So let's go back to our instructions and on to page 2, step number 11. With the insertion point on the last line of the document, which is blank, change the font to Times New Roman and change the font size to 16. Press tab, type Monday through Friday, and press tab, and be sure to leave space before and after this dash because we're going to put the time. So it looks like what we're doing here is just kind of setting up the hours of operation for the business. Again, if you did the simulation, this is very familiar to you. So I'm going to minimize this, and I am clicked right here on the last line, and they said change the font, which you see is Calibri. I'm going to click this drop down box. If you do not see Times New Roman as like a recently used font, then just type it. You're clicked inside the box, so just type it. As soon as it figures out that you want Times New Roman, you can press tab. Now that I'm in the size box, they said they want that to be size 16. I typed that, enter. Okay, now you can see how much bigger that paragraph mark is. Okay, first thing it tells us to do is press the tab key. So you see I did that, and it moved my paragraph marker already. Not space, 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 space. Don't do that. Tab. over to where we have that tab already configured. Type Monday space hyphen space Friday. Press tab. I've got my dot leader in there, and I'm going to type 9:00. Now, are you watching the text stay justified up against the right? So this is a right tab, and the text is moving off to the left. Okay, the right edge is going to be sharp. Space hyphen space 4:00. Okay, and it says do not type the period. Press enter. Press tab. Here we go again. We're going to type Saturday. We're going to tab. And when we tab, and I hope you're seeing, you see this is left justified, it's tab. This looks a little scary right now, but wait until we start typing stuff in. And on Saturday, we're open from 9:00 space hyphen space until 2:00. Look how that's lining up. So keeping that right edge nice and flush looks really nice. Then we're going to once again press enter. We're going to tab, and it says closed Sunday. And that's it. And we've completed step 11. Let's press the save button. Let's go back to our instructions and on to step 12. Select the three paragraphs at the end of the document. In other words, really those paragraphs we just typed, beginning with Monday through Friday and ending with closed Sunday. Open the Borders and Shading dialog box and apply a shadow border using the 7th style, which is double line, and do not change the color or line weight. Apply a shading of blue, accent 1, and it's telling us this is the row and column to help us see. So let's do that. I'm going to select these three paragraphs. We know lots of selection methods at this point. From the simulation, because I know they're going to have us change some other things, it might be good that we also select the tab. So I'm selecting all of that. You see what I'm doing there? Okay. And so I've selected that, and it says to open up Borders and Shading. So this again, we are working with the paragraph. Okay, we're working with the paragraph. In the simulation, I have noticed that they are making you select the entire paragraph. That's kind of an interesting thing because when you are affecting a paragraph, normally you don't have to select the whole paragraph because it doesn't matter, because it cannot apply it to a part of the paragraph. If we left justify or right justify, it doesn't matter what part of the paragraph is selected because it necessarily applies to the whole paragraph. So they were having us in the simulation, though, they were having us select everything in the paragraph. So maybe we should practice that. Okay, so I'm up here in the paragraphs, and I want to go to Borders and Shading. Well, when I look at that, now I do have, this is a shading button, but they were real specific and said go to Borders and Shading. Well, this is my Borders button. All kinds of things I can do with that. In this little drop-down box next to the Borders button, there is Borders and Shading. So let's go there. When I open that, first of all, always notice that you have lots of options, multiple tabs, lots of things you can adjust. And it said, we were on step 12, to apply a shadow border using the 7th style. So here's shadow. Okay, and can you see that it demonstrates there's a little bit of a thicker edge going around here. And if we go down, it says the style should be the 7th one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 was the double line. And you can see as I'm clicking it, it's demonstrating it to me here. It says do not change the color or the weight, which there is really kind of the width, but it does say that we need to apply the blue accent 1 lighter 60% shading. So while we're here, why don't we go ahead and come over here to Shading. Now, notice when we're talking about shading, we're talking about filling in the box. So I'm going to use the fill color. And row 3, 1, 2, 3, and across to column 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that right? Accent 1, lighter 60%. Select it. See that blue? Okay. Look at that. Cool. I like it. Save. Lots of hard work there. Save. Go back to the instructions. Step 13. Let me scroll this up. Select the 5 bold-faced paragraphs near the top of the document, beginning with Compose with Care and ending with Be Bold. Apply numbers, selecting the number alignment left, showing each number alignment left, showing each number followed by a right parenthesis. In other words, row 1, column 3 under the numbering library. Decrease the indent to move the numbered items to the left margin. Interesting. Well, let's go back to the document and let's see what they're having us do. Now, they did say these were near the top. So just to quickly go to the top, Control Home. And here's those bold-faced items. I'm going to select those. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. It said I'm going to go to numbering. Now, instead of just clicking on the button, I get options if I click on the little arrow. And it said in row 1, column 3, that this is what I'm looking for, right? Apply numbers, selecting number line left, showing each number, row 1, column 3. Got it. But it said to decrease the indent to move the numbered items to the left. Okay, well, I still have all this selected. Up here in the paragraph, can you see these little buttons? There's decrease indent and increase indent. So if I decrease, now here's what I want to watch. Do you see these tabs right here? This is telling me where the number is, and this is telling me kind of after the tab where the text continues. So I am going to watch and make sure that that jumps all the way flush with the edge. So decrease indent. And it is. Look at this. Nice. Moved it over very easily. Okay. That was, believe it or not, step 13. Have we done some good stuff? Ooh, I think so. Woo! Give ourselves a working up sweat here. Okay, here we go. Let me keep going. Back to the instructions. Back to the instructions. One step at a time. Number 14. Scroll to the second page and select the 4 paragraphs following the sentence, depth of field is determined by several factors, beginning with aperture f-stop and ending with point of view on the 3rd page. Wow, okay. So we're going from 2nd page to 3rd page. We're probably going to use our little shift key to select, aren't we? Apply a hollow round bullet to the selected text and decrease the indent to move the text to the left margin. Okay, one step at a time. Let's get back over here. Now, what page am I currently on? I'm currently on page 1. I can see that here. So I'm going to scroll to page 2. And once again, what did they say? Scroll to the 2nd page and select the 4 paragraphs following the sentence, depth of field is determined by several factors. Depth of field is determined by several factors. And so it said the 4 paragraphs. Now, each time there's a enter key that was pressed, that's a paragraph. So they're saying start here. I'm going to click before the A in aperture. I am now going to hold down the shift key and I'm going to click after the W in view and let up. Got all those selected. I'm going to go up into paragraphs, and next to numbers here is bullets, but I want some choices, so I want that little bitty drop down arrow, and it said it wanted this hollow one. So I'm going to click that. Got it. And we're not done yet. It says apply the hollow round bullet and decrease the indent to move the text to the left margin. So again, I'm looking at my settings and I'm going to use the decrease indent button, and I see that that alignment is very nice now. That's the end of step 14. Rocking and rolling. Let's save. Control S. You could Control S, right? Let's go back to the instructions. Step 15. select the 6 paragraphs above the last paragraph of text, beginning with where kids are involved and ending with even greeting Santa. Apply a hollow round bullet and decrease the indent of the bulleted text to the left margin. Let's do it. Here we go. Back to our document. It said select the 6 paragraphs above the last paragraph of text. So if I go on down, I could do Control End, couldn't I? Okay, this is the very end. This is the last paragraph, and the last paragraph would probably be this, right? Even greeting with Santa, that's my ending point. Beginning with where kids are involved. Okay, I've already clicked after the period in Santa, so I'm going to hold my Shift key down and click before where kids are. So I can select up or I can select down. The computer does not mind. Okay, so I have that, and I'm sorry, what did it ask us to do? Apply a hollow round bullet. And this was my most recently used. You can use that, or you can pick it again from the list, whatever works. So I'm going to do that. And then once again, it said to decrease. I'm looking at my settings. I'm going to decrease, and it is nicely justified over. Okay, save. Step number 15, mark it done. Let's go back to the instructions. Step 16, select all text from Courtesy of Philips Studio on page 1 through Before Even Greeting Santa on page 5. Format the selected text in 2 columns. Okay, are you ready? Let's go back to our document. This is a newsletter, and newsletters are very commonly control home, back to the top. Newsletters are very commonly in columns, right? So we want ours to look, professional like that. So when it says select all text from, so I don't think do I want this text from Courtesy on page 1 through? I guess I do want this. So my insertion point is at the Courtesy. I might be including one too many lines, we'll see. And I'm just scrolling. I'm not clicking. Don't click, because don't move your insertion point. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Scroll, scroll, scroll. All the way down to the end. Don't move your insertion point. We cannot Control End, because that would move the insertion point. And the last thing they said that I should look for is Before Even Greeting Santa on page 5, and so that's right here. So what am I going to do before I click? Don't touch it. If you click, you'll move your insertion point. You don't want to do that. Shift, click. Okay, see how it's all selected? The key was I'm using the wheel on my mouse. So I clicked, scrolled using the wheel on my mouse, then held my Shift key down, and then clicked with that Shift key held down, and it selected all that text. Now, I'm scrolling back up to the top because I want you to see something. I want you to see that right now there's just some paragraph marks right here. And we know that columns, where are columns? It's a layout function, isn't it? We're changing the layout. So under layout, I'm going to go to columns, and it said to do 2 columns. But now the title, Basics of Photography, is not going to be 2 columns. It's going to still be kind of regular, right? So it added automatically a section break. So above that section break, it's your regular 1 column, I don't know that we call it a column, 1 column text. Then there's that section break that was applied automatically as Word converted this into, I feel like that Courtesy of Philips Studio should not be part of the columns. What do you think? And here's the other part I wanted to show you. This very last sentence, let Philips Studio, and even this shadow box that we created, there's another section break. And so after the section break, that column is back to a single column. So Word automatically knew that we're creating a section, and inside of that section, it's going to be 2 columns. I am, especially in light of the fact that this is all by itself, I am believing that I'm going to leave it. I might get dinged on this. If so, we'll correct it in the end. Okay, so that was step number 16. Let's save, and let's go back to the instructions. When they say from courtesy of Phillips. See, that's where I'm struggling. But anyway, let's go back. Let's go on. Step 17. Click or position the insertion point before the paragraph on page 4, beginning with "Now for the fun part." Ensure the insertion point is on the same line as the paragraph beginning at the same line as the paragraph beginning. Okay, we're going to insert a picture. Here's where we're going to insert our picture, which we downloaded as part of our working files, called Winter. When you see JPG, you may not see that at all. That is a signal to your operating system that this is a picture, very commonly called a JPEG. That's the type of picture. So this is a photograph. This is Winter is a JPEG. Change the text wrapping to tight. Change the height of the picture to 1. Drag or move the picture directly below the Winter Photography heading placed at the left edge of the column. Woo, these are beefy steps, aren't they? They just have so much to them. So we're going to page 4. Well, let's see. That's about 1, 2. What page is this? This is page 3. Scrolling. Now, this is page 4. Here we are on page 4. And beginning with "Now for the fun part." So here it is right here. Now for the fun part. And they wanted us to click before that. See my insertion point. Ensure that the insertion point is on the same line as the paragraph beginning, and it is. And we're going to insert a picture. Alrighty, insert, and we're going to go to picture. And this is a little different in the current version of Word than in the previous version. You have so many more options with this. 3D models, lots of cool stuff that you did not have in just one version back. Okay, now where is that picture? It is on my computer. I'm saving it. I saved it on my desktop and in my Word 2 folder. There's the picture. If you don't see JPG, that's okay. Remember, the computer hides that because it's really not important to anything but the operating system. So we're going to insert, and there's my picture. So nice, and it's in that little column. But we're not done yet, because it said to us, change the text wrapping so that it's tight around the picture. Well, this little floating thing right here is a non-printing. It's a menu handle. And so if I click on that and I hover over, that says that it's currently in line with the text. That can look funny actually sometimes. What is this one? Oops. That one says square, and it's trying to demonstrate. And this one says that it is tight. We want it as close up to the edges of the picture as possible. So I'm going to click that. Now, we didn't really see too much change yet, and we're going to change the height of that picture. Now, with the picture selected, you should have an extra menu item that interestingly goes away. If you don't have the picture selected, you will not see this picture format ribbon, this tab. But click this picture format, tab, you've got the picture selected, and way down here, your height and width, and you're going to adjust, and it says change the height to 1. Now, this has the aspect ratio locked, and what that means is to keep the picture from looking all distorted, like somebody's head is pulled this way or that way or something. It knows to keep this ratio between height and width the same. We don't have to calculate it. It's going to do that. We're just going to go in here and type 1 for 1 inch, enter, and notice it adjusted the width to 1.5. And because we have this text tightly wrapped against the picture, it kept the picture kind of squished over, and it kept the text very tight to the edge of that picture. Okay? Drag or move the picture directly below the winter photography heading placed at the left edge of the column. Winter, do you see winter? There's winter photography. So this is what bothers me about that. I feel like we should have a column break right there. Doesn't it seem like there should be a column break to push that winter photography up to the next column? But they have not told us to do that. Now I'm pressing and I'm dragging and I'm bumping into the bottom, but I just kind of keep bumping it. And they wanted me to oops, goodness. Okay. Placed at the left edge, so I need to scoot it over. This is okay. See how things kind of went crazy? I need to undo whatever just happened, and I just need to squish that over. This is harder than it seems. I'm really having trouble with that. You know, I could edit this out, but I know it's taking extra time on the video, but I just want you to know that, you know, I experience sometimes little issues with this as well, and this troubleshooting is part of the process. Beginning with now, the fun part, ensure that the insertion point is on the same line as the paragraph, which we did. Then we inserted the graphic, and we had a little trouble there. If I'm going to lose points, then I'm going to lose them big. So let me just do this. I'm going to go to break, and I'm going to break the column to push this up. And I'm going to click here, and I'm going to say Insert, Picture, Device. Hopefully I only have it in there once, right? And I'm going to go ahead and change that to 1 inch. And I'm going to change this so that it's tight. That looks like what they want. They did not tell me to insert a column break. So I'm going to save that. And if they dock me a point for that column break, then I'll take it out and I'll resubmit. Okay? We'll see. We'll see. Okay, I saved that. Let's go to step 18. Step 18, click or place the insertion point before the dark photos heading in the right column on page 3 on the same line as the text. Press enter, click or place the insertion point beside the newly inserted blank paragraph. This is a lot, so instead of reading it all, let's just kind of do it and I'll read as we go. So back to the document, and I believe we're looking for page 3. We're currently on page 4. Here's page 3, so shooting from above. Dark photos is what we're looking for. Here's dark photos. And, okay, click or place the insertion point before dark photos. Press enter. Ooh, what just happened? Control Z. I don't know what happened. Press enter. There we go. Press enter. Click or place the insertion point beside the newly inserted blank paragraph above dark photo. So I'm just arrowing up so that my insertion point is where it's supposed to be. Insert SmartArt, selecting the basic matrix diagram. So insert, and we're going to go to a SmartArt, and I'm looking for a matrix. So rather than looking through all of them, I'm just filtering this to show me only matrix. Basic is probably going to be this first one, which it is. And I'm going to click OK. Very good. It says, let's see, I'm not adjusting the size yet, for this first one. Now, you can either type in the SmartArt itself or over here where it says type your text, and it tells me to type the mist focus. The mist focus. And see how nicely it's adjusting the size of my text so that it keeps the diagram looking good. I arrow down. The shaky frame. The shaky frame. Arrow down. the blown exposure. And then I'm going to arrow down. If I'm working in the picture, I need to click, but with this, I can just arrow down. The blown exposure, the awkward pose. Awkward pose. I'm learning a lot of photography here as we go. Okay, that looks good. That's step 18. And let's go back to the instructions. So I would hate to have read all that. It was just easier to do it, wasn't it? Here we are, step 19, almost to the bottom of a page, almost ready for a stretch break. Fill the line, first line in the document on page, select the first line in the document on page 1. Basics of photography, insert word art, select that, and apply top and bottom text wrapping. So basically I think we're going to convert that to word art. So I'm going back to the document. Let's click out of that smart art. So I'm clicking in the document. I'm going to control home to get up to the top real fast. And it said to us, select the first line in the document, basics of photography. So here's a way. I'm just going to move my mouse out here. That selects the entire line. It does not select necessarily the paragraph. So for example, if I just wanted to select everything on one line, I just need my mouse out here on the left margin. See how that works? In this case, it's exactly what I want selected. So I have that selected. And sorry, where am I? Select the first line, insert word art all the way towards the end, word art. And the word art that they want is a blue fill. Is it this one? Blue fill accent color. Oops, not that one. Accent color 1. There it is. Blue fill accent color 1 shadow. Row 1, column 2. Sure enough. So there it is. Okay. Now it says apply top and bottom text wrapping. So let me see what we have here. Top and bottom text wrapping. So top and bottom, see it right here? There we go. So we're just trying to make sure our columns stay as a column. Okay. Woo! I'm starting to break a sweat. Are you breaking a sweat? I'm breaking a sweat. Okay, I saved. Let's go back to the instructions. I'm not breaking a sweat. You're not breaking a sweat. We're doing it. Step number 20. Draw a text box anywhere in the right column on page 1. Change the height of that text box, change the width, select and copy the second sentence in our document, and click in the text box and paste that sentence. This is hopefully kind of familiar from the simulation. Change the font size of the text in the box to 16. Apply square text wrapping. And then the text box will be repositioned in a later step. Okay, so let's go to our document. And it says anywhere on page 1. So I'm just going to click because I know it's going to go kind of over here. And insert. And we're looking for a text box. Here it is right here. And they want us to draw. We're not actually drawing it. But that they don't want one of these presets is what they're saying. They want it to be something that we create. So I'm going to draw a text box, and they said anywhere. So really, I'm just going to kind of there. How about that? Okay, so there's a text box. And it said with that text box, we want to find this sentence right here. Make sure you get the period at the end of the sentence. If you're having difficulty selecting that precisely, what can you do? Click, shift. Oops, I didn't get the period at the end of the sentence. Oh, okay. I'll tell you another trick then. Once you've clicked, if you're still just a little bit off, keep that shift key held down. Use your arrow key on your keyboard. See how I can arrow to get exactly. I still have my shift key held down. That's critical. And then I just arrow with that shift key held down. Okay, so I think I've got the whole thing there now. Inexpensive digital camera, is that what it? Yep. And I'm going to copy Keyboard, Control C, I'm a keyboard person. Click inside my text box. How do you paste? It is not Control P. That is for printing. So pasting is Control V as in victory. V as in victory. Control V. Control C copies. Control V paste. Okay. Let's see. So paste. Okay. Change the font size to 16. So I'm going to select all that. I triple clicked, change the font size to 16, apply square. I haven't resized. Oh, I haven't changed the height. That's going to make it much better if I change it. When you're working inside of the text box, it can get a little strange up here to go to shape format. It looks like it's going to work. But if you do not get this shape format, if you're struggling to get the options up here, then the problem could be that you need to select the actual object. When I say object, do you see how this is hovering above the page? Right? It's not actually in the page. It is an additional object that is set on top of the document. So to select it and not the text inside of it, what I would do is watch my mouse. As I get close to the border, do you see it changed? That mouse is now pointing at a four-sided arrow. Now, that's different than putting my mouse on one of these handles, because that's for resizing. Those handles, this is for resizing. But when I put my mouse over any of the regular border of the box, that is how I can select it. And when I say select it, I get that shape, and man, it's precise. If I go just a little too far up, it's not. If I go a little too far down, it's not. I have to be right on that edge. Then when I press my mouse button down, keeping that mouse button held down, do you see how that is selected? That's how I select the object, okay? So that's going to be very handy as we continue. So I have that selected. I do want to change the height, and I apologize for skipping that step earlier. It says change the height to 1.5, and that aspect ratio is going to say, look, I need to keep this in a certain way, so I'm going to hit enter. I say it said, oh, no, I'm sorry, this is not a locked aspect ratio. It wants the width to 3. So I'm going to change that. Okay, now we're cooking. That looks a little bit better, but we're still not finished with this step. I need to apply square text wrapping. So what is that? This one? Here it is right here. Now, did you see the text move away? It's trying to do exactly what this picture is showing, and there wasn't enough room for any text on either side because this is about a 3-inch wide column, right? And so it pushed the text down. It says the text box will be repositioned in a later step. Okay, so what we've done, you've seen magazines where they have just certain text that really catches your eye, and you're like, oh, where did they say that? Let me read more about that article. So they're trying to capture our attention. So that's what they've done, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is step number 20. So let's save. We created a text box, we copy and pasted some text in, we sized our text box, and we made sure the text is flowing around it correctly. Okay, we are on to step number 21. Insert a shape. Selecting Explosion 8 points in the stars and banners section, placing it near the right margin at the right of Basics Photography heading on page 1. The shape should be approximately 1 inch in height, although it will be adjusted in a later step. Okay, so let's do that, and then we're going to save. So I'm back in my document. We're already up here at the top. I'm going to insert a shape. So insert shapes, and they want us to go to stars and banners, and when I hover over this very first one, it says Explosion 8 points. I'm going to click it, and they said just kind of put it out here someplace. So I'm just going to do that. Now when I say do that, click and hold with it held, drag, and you do that in a diagonal motion, and that's what creates the shape. So I press and I keep the mouse held down while I drag to that corner. Okay, it said it should be approximately 1 inch in height. I don't think we need to worry too much about it, but if you want, I've got that selected. I'm on the shape format toolbar, so I'll just go ahead and make that 1. How about that? Maybe even pull it up just a little bit. I don't know, close enough. We're going to position it in a later step. Into page 2. Save that work. That is such a lot of good hard work. And we are now going to take a brief stretch break. Stretch with me. And we're going to come back and we're going to finish these last couple steps. So let's get started with page 3. Here we go. Keep going. We're almost done. A couple more steps. So let's go back. Let's go to our instructions. Oop, get my mouse. There we go. And on to page 3, step number 22. Select the SmartArt object on page 4. And we're going to do a lot of things to it. So rather than me read this long instructions to you, let's just kind of walk through it over there, okay? So here we go, and we're back to our document. And let's scroll down to page 4. I'm keeping an eye down here, page 3. Here we are. Here's page 4, and here's our SmartArt. Remember that? Now, this is key. Let me tell you this really quick. Do you see that when I clicked in this object, there are the dots that indicate that this is selected? But what exactly is selected? I've got these dots going around the entire SmartArt. That tells me the SmartArt is selected. But I drilled into the SmartArt and I selected this particular shape or object inside of the SmartArt. And I probably don't want to have that selected because I'm going to give you a little mantra, which is very true. What is selected will be affected. So if I accidentally select, do you see how now the dots are around this? If I accidentally select, look at that. Now I've got the dots around kind of a container inside of the SmartArt container. And so what I select, I will affect when I start to resize things. At this point, I'm going to continue reading here in a moment. I don't think I want things inside here to be selected because it simply said select the SmartArt. So what do I want to do? These objects, I mentioned earlier, how do you select it? You're going to move your mouse, see that border? Not the handles, but the border. And when I get my mouse where it's pointed in that 4-sided arrow shape, click. Now do you see that there's only dots around the entire outside? There's no dots selected anything inside. That's probably, unless they tell me different, that's probably what I want, because what is selected will be affected. So I really got to pay attention that those little dots that indicate it's selected are only on the outside unless I know that I want to select and affect something inside of that shape. Interesting. Learning hopefully something new. So we have selected it. It says click or select an outside border. Oh, okay. Click or select an outside border of the diagram to ensure that the entire object is selected and not an object inside the object. Okay. Adjust the height to 2 and the width to 2.5. So I'm going to look up here with this selected. It says SmartArt Design. I don't see my sizing, so I'm going to look at Format. And sure enough, when I'm at Format, now I can come down here and it says I want the height to be 2. I just typed the number 2 in there and pressed enter, making sure that when I clicked in there, everything was selected. And when everything is selected, if you type, it deletes it and replaces it with whatever you type. And it wants the width, click, everything is selected, 2.5, enter. Excellent. And I see my SmartArt has resized. Change text wrapping to square. Well, we know that's this symbol here. And if I remember, this one is square. Right? Now, you see there was a little room, if I click away, there was a little room, and dark photos was, the dark word was able to sneak up here on the side. Change text wrapping to square. Drag or move the SmartArt object up to position it directly under the Common Photography Mistakes heading near the end of the right column on the preceding page. So, Common Photography Mistakes, and they want it positioned drag it directly under. Now, I want to be able to see both things at the same time, so I'm going to give you a couple hints. Do you see how I have two pages right here? And that when I move my mouse in between the two pieces of paper, my mouse changes shapes. That's always an indicator that I can do something. And it tells me that if I double click, it will remove that white space. So I'm going to double click. And it just put the two pieces of paper together so that instead of being like this, they're like this. They're just really right next to each other. It helps me see just a little bit better. So that's one thing that I'm going to change. Now, what if I want it back? See how when I move my mouse over that line, again it changes shapes. If I double click, then it brings that back. So that's just a little tip. Went into the header. That's just a little tip to help. And that's going to make things easier. But the other thing is down in this lower right corner, and we've seen this a lot already, I am going to zoom out just a little bit. That way I can see my SmartArt shape and I can see my title up here. So again, I'm going to click my shape, my SmartArt. I'm double checking here. I didn't click inside it and select anything else. So when I drag, I'm going to get my mouse on top of one of these edges. Right? And with my mouse in that special shape, pressing and holding my mouse button down, I'm dragging up, up, up. There it is. And I think that's what they told me to do. Select the text in the object or select an outside border, change the font and font size of the selection. Oops, I didn't do that. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still on number 22. I jumped ahead. I'm sorry. Drag or move the SmartArt object to position it directly under Common Photography Mistakes near the end of the right column on the preceding page. Use an alignment guide to ensure that the object is aligned at the left edge of the column. And I did, as you were do you see that green line? I'm not doing anything to make that happen. It's automatic, and it's helping me to recognize that I'm in the right spot. So we did that. Okay, there's a special note. If you're a Macintosh user, make sure that you are reading that. I am on a Windows operating system. I'm trying to see if there's something else I need to do, or if this is just for the Mac users. Okay. Select. Okay. Note from the shortcut select. So, okay. Now it does tell me there is another sentence there, and it says if I go back down here to where it says dark photos, that it says delete the blank paragraph above the dark photos heading on page 4. So hopefully I'm not missing any steps here. If I do, then I'm going to correct those after, my IT lab will point that out, and I'll come in here and correct it. So I'm going to save. And let's go back to our instructions. All right, let's go. Number 23, scroll to the top of page 1 and click or select the WordArt object, Basics of Photography. Select the text in the object or select an outside border of the WordArt. Change the font size to 24. And then we're going to do some more things. So one step at a time, let's go to our document. It said that we need to go to the top, so Control Home. And remember that we converted basics of photography and we made it smart art. So they want us to select it. Now, right now I'm inside of that object. I want to select the actual object. So I'm going to get my mouse over one of those edges and click on it so that I have the whole object selected. And it said change the font size to 24. So I did that. Drag or move the word art object to the right using the green alignment guides to position it in the center of the top row. Okay, so again, I'm getting my mouse over one of these edges and I'm going to drag, and see that green line? It's helping me keep it nice and straight and steady. And now I've got a green line shooting down the page, and that helps me understand that I'm in the middle. And so now I'm going to release. Okay. The green alignment guide should show at the top middle, indicating its center. There is another note for Mac users. Okay, it does say, and then select Align Center. Now, is that for the Mac users? Yeah, I think that is. So I think we're done with that big old step number 23. These are some big steps on page 3. Goodness. Okay, let's go back. Done. Step 24. Click or select the explosion shape near the right side of the word art object. Change the height and width to 0.75. Ensure the shape is positioned alongside the right margin on the same line. So we're going to use those green guides then again. And look at this, a keyboard command. Use Control D, so handy. Control D to duplicate. So it kind of takes care of copy and paste. It's all in one go. Control D to duplicate the selected object, and drag or move the copied shape to the left margin on the same line, mirroring the shape on the right. So we're basically going to have an explosion on both sides of our document. This looks very smushed up against the top, doesn't it? So let me try this. Between pages 1 and 2, remember I collapsed that earlier, moving my mouse on the edge of the paper, double click, and it gives me back that margin. That's just going to help me see a little better up here. Okay, so I'm selecting that explosion. I'm going to change to this shape format, and they wanted height and width to be 0.75. So clicking in there, 0.75, enter. Clicking the width. See how it looks kind of funky? It's because the aspect ratio is not locked. So clicking in width, 0.75, enter. Still have it selected. Control. Oh, do I need to align it first? I'm sorry. Near the edge of the right column. Okay, so putting my mouse over the border, I'm going to make sure I had to slide it a little bit to the right. When I did, I got that green line. So I'm going to release. Or maybe do I need to go down? Doesn't really say, does it? Okay, so I think I'm okay there. Have it selected, Control D. With that one, I'll tell you kind of a neat trick. Remember I said you could use the arrow keys. Well, you can. So I could, if I wanted to make sure, I'm arrowing up right now. I've got that selected. And what that'll help me to do is to see, do you see how I might be, am I up just a little bit? Do you see how those two shapes are, I mean, I know they are perfectly aligned, and if I use my mouse, I might go up or down or something. So I'm just going to hold my arrow key. Whee! Whee! Oops, maybe a little too far. Okay, that is a trick to help you keep things perfectly aligned. Now, I have to kind of break that little trick because I'm going to put my mouse over the border, and I want to make sure, okay. That seems a little too far. I don't think they want it that far over. I hate when there's a little bit of vagueness here. Ensure the shape is positioned alongside the right margin. Okay, so I think it's got to go inside the margins. and drag or move. We use the arrow keys to move the copied shape to the left margin on the same line, mirroring the shape on the right. I think that looks good. But it was kind of cool, wasn't it? Because we could use that arrow key to keep things perfectly aligned. So it helps you things from getting off just a little bit, where you can tell something's wrong but you can't get it quite right. So that's a little trick for you. I'm going to save, and that was step 24. So let's go back to the instructions and on to step 25. We're going to select that text box in the right column of page 1, and we're going to make it pop a little bit. We're going to give it some fill, this blue accent color. We're going to change the outline of the shape color. We're going to click Align to ensure that it aligns to the margin is checked in the Arrange group. Okay, let's just go back over there. Okay, so here's our text box. I'm going to click to select it, and we are on step 25. Change the shape fill to blue. Now, in some cases there are multiple ways to do this. So I can, sometimes you'll see tools like on this Home tab where you can. Oh, I'm missing my fill button, but I want to make sure I'm affecting this shape fill. Okay, so here I am, and here's my options for this. And when I click on this drop down box for the shape fill, I'm sorry, blue accent 1 lighter 80%, and they say that's row 2 and column 5. So there it is, blue accent 1. I'm going to pick that, and see how it's making that look a little more like a magazine, kind of pops out at you. Change the shape outline to black text 1. Well, shape outline, click that little drop down box. I think it's this one, black text 1. Now I've got that nice border. Click Align and ensure that Align to Margin is checked. So over here, Align, and it is Align to Margin. Okay, so that's a handy. You can see if your alignment guides were not showing, this is where you activate that. Okay, under Align, make sure those alignment guides. If you get really into doing shapes and things, sometimes these grid settings are helpful. Even look at some of these that'll line all your shapes up to the left or centered. So lots of cool options underneath this. Align to Margin is checked. Is checked in the Arrange group on the Shape Format tab, and choose Align the text box as center and middle. Oh, okay. Align center. Oh, align text. I'm sorry. And choose to align the text box as center and middle. Look at that. Look at that. Very spiffy. That looks professional, doesn't it? I think it does. I think it's looking really cool. So you have this nice, somebody's flipping the pages in a magazine and they go, oh, the world of photography is wide open to anyone. Well, let me read further, right? You've captured their attention. Okay, let's save that. And I believe we just completed step 25. Line and middle. Yes, on to step 26. Select the explosion shape at the top left side of page 1. Hold the Shift key as you click the word art and select the word art banner. Oh, and the explosion. Okay, so we're going to select these 3 objects across the top. We're going to group the selected objects. So change the text formatting of the grouped object to top and bottom. Okay, so let's go back to our document. We're going to click this first one. Shapes are a little bit interesting in Word because remember we've been selecting multiple things, and with Shift we've typically only had to do the first object and the last object. Well, this time we're going to have to click each and every one. So I've clicked the first one. That's always click our starting point. Get your finger, hold that Shift key down. They want us to click Basics of Photography, and then they want us to click this explosion. Now, why do they, now I'm letting up off of the Shift key. Why do they want us to do all this? Because we are going to group the objects. Okay, so up here, I'm on the shape format. Underneath Align, here's Group, and we're going to group. That means, ooh, that looks terrible. That means it is treating them all as one object. You see the text in the newsletter has jumped up because it doesn't know how to wrap it. Instead of saying 3 individual objects, it now sees one object and it's floating above the page, right? So we're going to have to work on that, I am sure. Change the text wrapping of the grouped object to top and bottom, not floating above. So here's our wrap. Top and bottom. Let's see, this was square. This one is top and bottom. There we go, we fixed it back. But now, do you see what's selected? Not 3 individual things, but just one thing, because they are grouped. And I have that selected. If I needed to work with them grouped because I'm moving them around, I can do that, and then when I'm ready, I can ungroup if I need to. Okay? Let's save that. Woohoo! We are getting close. All right, let's go back to the instructions. Step number 27, scroll to the bottom of page 3, insert a column break before shooting from below. Desperately in need of some column breaks. Let's do that. Back to our work. Scroll down to page, let me make this bigger. Scroll down to page 3. Here we are, and we are looking for shooting from below for our photography. Shooting from above. Oh, there it is, shooting from below. I missed it because it's just hanging out here. So we click right before that, and we are going to insert, which is a column break, which is under layout. There are a few things under insert. There's a couple things, but we need to go under layout, breaks, and then column break. Boom. It pushed shooting from below up to the top of our column. If we scroll down, we see that column break there. Now, here's an interesting thing. I have this column break. Where's my picture? Now it's going to be all straightened out. So you know what? I don't need this column break. I'm going to delete this. It was just giving me a lot of trouble because it was not at the top of the page. So I inserted that column break. It helped me during this editing process. I know it's not supposed to be there. I don't need it anymore. Now I deleted it. So a little extra step for you. I'll try to make note of that on the video. Okay, that was step number 27. We did good there. And if I go back to the instructions, we are at the end. Save and close and submit. Are you ready? Okay, I'm going to close these instructions for a minute. I'm going to double, triple make sure that I have saved my document. I'm going to close it. Don't forget that step. Close your work. Get out of Word completely. Don't leave anything open. Okay? Now, go to My IT Lab. You may have to log back in to make sure that it's still kind of functional. I'm just going to close this for a minute, and sometimes I even refresh the page. You may have done this over several days, right? Course materials is where we were. We're in Word Chapter 2. And let's go to hands-on, the grader, hands-on exercise. It's going to open another tab. Make sure your pop-ups are not blocked. Now, I do not need to download again. I just need to submit the file. So choose my file. Now, here's where you are really going to make a mistake if you're not paying attention. Your computer might remember that the last thing you uploaded was from Word 1. Make sure you are in the correct folder. This is a very common mistake. We're going to be submitting a lot of documents. Once you're in Word 2 folder, then make sure you are finding the file with your name on it. You should, for Word 2, only see 3 files. If you see 4 files, you have left stuff open. So close, make sure you close it, okay? Get out of Word completely. Now, find the file with your name on it, select it, let's open. Not done yet, upload. What are we waiting for? Success! Successful upload. Now, just my drum roll please, submit for grading. Okay. I like to give it a minute. It closed automatically last time. That's a new thing for this edition. Y'all, look at that! Raise the roof, do some dancing. Woohoo! 100%. Perfect score. Good for me, good for you. Because if you follow along, I hope you have learned a lot. I know this is a long video, but look at all the learning. Take breaks as you need to. You are awesome. You completed the task. Now, if you do not have 100%, you know what you need to do. You need to click the 3 dots. You need to view submissions. When you look at your submission, I can double click this. And let's remember our tools. I'm going to remind you of these for just a little while. Here are some tools. Download submitted file will just bring back that file we uploaded. There's not necessarily a need for that because we haven't lost it. We haven't deleted it. It's still right there on our computer. Okay? It's just a convenience for you in case you've lost it. Live Comments is going to download that document, and it's going to kind of have some comments. It's going to be marked up to tell you what you kind of messed up. What I find most students do, and what is really quick and easy and fast, is you're going to look through this scorecard. And if you see any red in this scorecard, I don't have any red. I'm sorry. If you see any red in this scorecard, then you're going to have an option to be able to click and expand that task. I mean, these things have several pieces and parts to add up to the overall points. So, for example, this one that's worth 5 points, I might find that I lost 1 point. It will tell me exactly what I did not do correctly. So then what do? I go back to my original file, I open it up, I correct it, and I go back to my IT lab, course materials, open the grader, I submit the corrected file. Right? You just submit it again so that you can get those perfect points also. Now, what does that mean, perfect points? Look at your syllabus, go to the detailed explanation of assignments, okay? In that, for the grader, for the quiz, for every required assignment, I explain in detail how many attempts you have and how I grade those attempts. Do I record only your highest score, like the quiz, okay, like the simulation, which you're going to get 100 on anyway, okay, or do I set a pass-fail like the grader? Now, if you are above the passing mark, you will get full points, but the key thing here is that you're learning. You can follow along with me and get that 100% and have the knowledge, and that's the goal with this class. These are real-world skills that are going to benefit you in the workplace, in your volunteer work, if you are doing things for your church, any organization. Okay, thank you, folks. This is a long one. Appreciate you so much. I really do, and I hope you've learned a lot today. Thank you.